Hey, good afternoon to everybody. Happy Wednesday. It's Daryl here. It is not so bright and early. It's 12:30 p.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. If you watch my channel, you know what I'm talking about. That's not so bright and early because I'm usually here at 3:30 a.m. Anyway, today I came across a few videos. I came across one with Britney Spears demanding an apology. I may or may not do a video talking about that. It depends how much I really have to say about that. But what I really want to talk about, I came across a story, or more correctly, I came across a video of Bam Margera, the latest video. I believe this just came out early in the morning, Wednesday morning, like 12:30, I believe, Eastern Standard Time. This just came out on TMZ, and I want to comment a little bit about it. I'm not trying to put Bam down here. This is just, if you're interested, in my opinion of watching Bam and hearing what he's saying and his approach to sobriety. Like I said, for those of you that don't know, haven't heard this before, for those of you that have heard this before, I apologize. I've been clean and sober since October 23rd, 2006. So that's 16 years, 8 months, and a couple weeks, 3 weeks. Before that, though, I was in and out of detoxes and a couple rehabs. Detox is what you do before the rehabs, and I kept trying to do just the detox and get out, kind of like Bam's doing, and I kept slipping right away. And so I've been through this. I went through this for decades, and I want to give you my take on what he's saying here. Like I said, my point here isn't to put Bam down. My point here is trying to help other people. If you're thinking about going into recovery or detox, like I said, I repeatedly tried to do it the way that Bam is doing it here, and it did not work for me. I heard it. There's a saying that whatever recovery, don't judge other people's recovery. If it works, then good for them. Different people have different modes of recovery. But one thing that I discovered is addicts are very much alike. And what Bam's doing here. Let me describe this. In this video, and the link will be right down below. Bam, for all intents and purposes, honestly, he's in LA, and he seems sober. To be completely honest, he seems like he's detoxing, like he's almost going through withdrawals. That's my take on this. He's fidgety, and the thing is, he keeps rubbing his face and his hair. I used to do this constantly, like when I was trying to do what he's doing. I would get out of detox after, I did this like 9 or 10 times. I'd get out of detox after 5, 6, 7 days, just like he did with Lamar Odom. And I would try to stay clean and sober, and it would usually only last a few hours, to be honest with you. It seems that, okay, so Bam says that he needs his own custom-made rehabilitation. And he jokes that Lamar Odom said that he calls it Bam's special custom-made rehab or whatever. Bam complains that he doesn't want to be locked. This is what he says, and he knows this isn't true, and I know this isn't true, and anybody that's been in rehab or detox knows this isn't true. I mean, he had the 5150 lockdown, and that was because he threatened. He was in danger of hurting himself or somebody else, and that's a different situation. But at Lamar Odom's place, Bam says he doesn't want to be locked in a room. And he doesn't want to be told that alcohol is bad. He knows alcohol is bad. And, this is why I'm making this video, because I remember myself saying this exact same thing, and it never worked for me. When this is a sure giveaway. I've talked about this before. Sure sign, because when I first got out of detox and rehab, I would tell people would come knocking on my door. They thought I was still using or whatever. I'd see somebody on the street, and I would tell them, I'm clean and sober. And every single time, they go, me too. And, it didn't take me long to realize that not everybody, but people were lying to me. And one of the surest giveaways was when people when you've been clean and sober, you tell somebody, I've been clean and sober for this many hours. Because it's a minute by minute, hour by hour struggle. That's what I'm talking about with Bam rubbing his hair, and it's a constant, almost a constant state of anxiety sometimes, especially when somebody's interviewing you, like in this situation with Bam. The giveaway is when somebody says these two things: I've been doing good, I'm doing good, That's a dead giveaway for me. Or I've been clean for a while. I've been doing good for a while and doing good. Those are the two things that tell me. Like I said, I'm not beating up on Bam here. I'm just giving my opinion because I've been through this exact same thing. That means he's not clean and sober. In my opinion, it doesn't look like he's on any kind of hard drugs here. But I get the definite impression that alcohol and marijuana probably, and maybe one or two other things, are still on the menu. I think that's why he doesn't say specific. If he was completely clean and sober, which is the way I've learned, it took me years to figure this out, but that's the way I needed to go. You say I've been clean and sober for this, like I say, I've been clean and sober for, I could tell you the years, the days, the months. You know, here it is almost 17 years later, and I could tell you, bam, 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 I could tell you almost down to the hour the last time I took a hit, crack. You know, that's how important, that's how substantial this is to me. When somebody doesn't do that, when somebody says, I'm doing good, I've been clean for this, I've been doing good for a while, that's a big freaking red flag. Like I said, I'm not trying to bang on him or anything. So he claims that he doesn't want to be locked in a room. And that's just total bull. You know, I have never been to Lamar Odom's rehab, but rehabs don't lock you in anywhere. You usually have just, it's almost like to me it was almost like a vacation sometimes. I didn't want to leave after I got into a few 30 days or 60 day recovery programs. You're not locked in anywhere. You get up, and you sit down, you have breakfast with people, and I got some of my best friends. And there's so much less stress when you're in there because you're not constantly fighting your addiction or your alcoholism. Because in there you feel safe. You know, you're not constantly thinking, should I call my dealer? You know, unless you're thinking of leaving. But once you get comfortable in there, it feels very safe. And I made good acquaintances, good friends. And you get into a daily routine. You know, washing your clothes, meals times, and even the places I went, which wasn't even for movie stars, they had art programs, music programs. Daily NA meetings, AA meetings, you know, every couple hours, and you were free to exercise or walk around or do whatever. Walk outside. Nobody's locked in a room. You know, this is the stuff that makes me think maybe Bam doesn't have this under control. The way he's twisting this and making it sound like, oh, I don't want to be locked in. You know, I need my own special kind of rehabilitation. You know, and he talks about, well, maybe he needs a sober coach, or one or two, people. I guess if you have that much, he complains. He says that if insurance is paying for it, they'll keep you in there forever. And honestly, that's not what I came across. I found after a while, after 30, 60, 90 days, usually 60 to 90 days, it becomes obvious to you and to people around you that you start getting it's time to leave. You know, you have what they call the tools to get out there, and like I tell you guys, the triggers. You got to know your triggers, and this is stuff Bam hasn't even learned what to do. Like I've told you guys, have a plan in your head. When you come across people you used to use with or a situation, know what you're going to do ahead of time. These are things that I'm sure he hasn't talked about yet. And these are the things you kind of go over in these 30, 60, and Bam's not getting that. Yeah, another thing, what was the other thing I was the triggers. Oh yeah, this one. One of the most important things when you're in these rehabs for 60, 90 days, which Bam refuses to do, is you start to see how you're, like, I felt like a failure, a freak, or, I felt like a failure because I was an addict. I couldn't stop. And when you get into these programs, you see that you're exactly like everybody else with this disease, and you start to feel, you get a kinship, what do they call it, a brotherhood, what's the word, and then also in these rehabs, the most important thing is you get to the bottom when you usually spend time alone with a therapist or a counselor each day or every other day, usually each day. And this is the most important thing, is getting to the bottom of why you started using in the first place. With me, I mean, being abused by my mother's boyfriend for 5 years when I was 11 to 13 years old certainly didn't help. You know, you start to learn social anxiety disorder, you know, because I remember needing to use cocaine because it brought out the wild parties, you know, and this is stuff you learn. Like, the most important thing is understanding why you started using in the first place and what to do when identifying your triggers and what to do. This is something you got to know. And it's one of the most important things with staying in rehab and being around the kinship, the fellowship of being around other addicts for 30 or 60 or 90 days. You know, he spins this like it's some kind of cult where they lock him in a room and they just bang in the head, alcohol's bad, alcohol's bad. And he says, I know alcohol's bad. Well, we all know alcohol's bad or drugs are bad. The point of these rehabs is to get to the bottom of why you felt the need to start using in the first place. The stuff in your, you know, the stuff that's, the reason you were kind of broke in the first place and you used drugs and alcohol as a band-aid. That's almost 100% of the time why this happens. And Bam isn't getting that. Those are my takes on him. Like I said, he seems very nervous. He seems like he's undergoing, he talks about his son and not seeing his son. And I think him and his lawyer just fail to understand that he's gonna need to prove his sobriety, you know, before she'll let, you know, I don't know her and I don't know the situation, but more than likely she wants him to get stable, you know, and that does not mean leaving rehab in his own little private rehabilitation program because he can't handle being in a regular rehab. You know, he needs to get stability, a routine, or maybe even urines. You know, because I took urines for quite a while. You know, you need, because you've broken the trust. I knew. I didn't feel angry when people didn't trust me because I knew I had lied. I was manipulated. I had manipulated people for decades. And it took a long time. It took some of my family members, it took years before they trusted me again. You know, that it was going to stick, that I was serious about this. And then, you know, after a year, 2 years, 3 years, they start to see me, the real me. You know, that this was going to work. That I was going to have to work it. It works if you work it. Bam and his lawyer here are missing some just important parts of sobriety and recovery, really, in my opinion. You know, he just wants to jump back and get these privileges without having to prove, you know, to prove that he's actually doing the right thing, because he's going to have to do that. You know, he's been untrustworthy for a long time, and you need to show people that you are going to pull this off. And his lack of ability to actually just belt out. Most people that are clean and sober, not drinking, you know, and that's another thing. If you're drinking, if you use it, especially if you're drinking, you know, I discovered I had to stop drinking, because when I drank, eventually it would lead, it altered my mood, it altered the way I felt, and eventually it would have led back to drugs. And I'm sure of that. I had to quit everything, and most people do. You know, most people can't have this little custom-made, you know, special little famous person recovery system where he gets passes on alcohol and marijuana and his own private sobriety coach, and he doesn't have to go get locked in these rooms, as he calls it. Yeah, it's a bunch of bull. It really is. He's not doing it, in my opinion. He's not doing the right thing, and what he's doing here is white knuckling it. That's what they call this, white knuckling it. When you're trying to stay sober without doing the work, white knuckling it, and it's pretty obvious. Like I said, I'm not trying to put him down. I went through the exact same thing he's going through. I made these mistakes. I think they're mistakes. I do. All right, I'll talk more about this in another video, you guys. I wish Bam the best of luck. I really do. I hate to see, I tear up when I watch like Intervention. Whenever I get to the end of the story and the person says the person's been clean and sober for this many years, I actually start crying still to this day. That's how much, I'm not kidding. That's how much it means how much it hits me. I'd love nothing more than to see Bam Margera be clean and sober and enjoy his life and his son and a good, happy life. A good, healthy, happy life, clean and sober. We'll see. Have a good Wednesday.